So I've been playing lots of off-meta picks. I'm also having my dinner sandwiches, as you can might be able to see. So the Tamer. So this is basically Ryze build, and it's a jungle build. One of the weaknesses of Ryze is that his laning phase, he's very susceptible to ganks because his wave clear is very strong. But his W, he's only able to really deal with one champion at a time. Uh, his strength lies a lot in hiding behind tanks and also in one-shotting and 1v1s. But his strength doesn't really lie that much as other mages. 1v2, 1v3 scenarios, like maybe Ori would, or Lux in some cases. Because Ryze just doesn't have the range to stand that far away. So one of the strengths and benefits of going Ryze jungle is that he's not as susceptible to ganks, and he also gets to choose when he fights way more. And when he does fight, he will always have some kind of teammate around most of the time because of the fact that he's going to be ganking lanes, which have usually it'll usually be an uneven fight or some kind of fight with multiple players where Ryze can use the other player's utility to his advantage in order to kind of be a little more useful than just in a solo lane. Because, yeah. But, this is, of course, a gimmick, but this is the theory and kind of what inspired me to try Ryze in the jungle. So the reason you take spell, and it used to be better spellbook because it had even more cooldown, but spellbook helps you with giving you smite way more often than you normally would, especially in the first clear. This is amazing because that means you don't have to do 2 camps after. So you can start blue, and you can say you're top right side and you're starting blue, which is the best scenario. It's much better to be able to start blue than to start red, just because you have way more options, and you're way more flexible in case the game doesn't go, the straightforward basic way, which everyone farms and no one's trying to kill anybody and do random weird pathing. You'll be able to kill blue faster than red, even with the 2 teammates, and you get more teammates. So if, say, we're going with the ideal, we go red side, and you smite, and you finish your blue, then you go to your wolves, and you finish wolves and you smite wolves. By then you should actually, if you smite wolves and you go over to your red side, you will actually almost have smite ready, or at least during the time that you start clearing red, you will have smite ready for red, which usually is not the case with the usual cooldowns of your smite, and that's why you take spellbook no matter what. You start with heal as well, because heal gives you the little bit of movement speed burst. It also gives you the health. It's the best, most rounded ability when you are in your jungle. In case of something happening, you're able to heal away and hopefully deal with an invade if you are getting invaded. Heal is very good, and you can always swap the heal for flash, you can swap the heal for ghost, you can swap the heal for ignite for different reasons. Exhaust is a common one that I swap to sometimes if I'm really struggling with some kind of one-shot carry jungler or mage that is constantly like roaming mid, then yeah, I might even take exhaust, consider taking out heal. Also, why heal is because heal allows you to use it with a teammate. If you are ganking, heal is going to be more useful, and it gives you the movement speed boost as well, unlike other abilities, and it's better than ghost in the case that if you get dove, you get the healing. So that's kind of the reason you take heal. Flash early is good, but I feel like sometimes a clear might go wrong, and the jungle clear is not easy, and it's pretty easy to mess it up. It's very important to do it a certain way. But you might need heal in order to make up for a mistake, say in your clear, or you can't clear a certain camp because they're warding it, and you have to go somewhere else, and you just don't have the sustain to handle the camp, and you don't want to back that early because you don't have items that you would essentially want to get on your first back, which makes heal just a much safer and better summoner overall to take. Get magical footwear. It's really important for Ryze to, especially with jungle, so that all the gold you're spending, so you can get as much free boost to get you to that mid game that is so nice and sweet as early as possible, allowing you to clear camps faster, allowing you to gank earlier, gank more often, play more, be more safe. Movement, extra 10 movement speed on the boots is always nice to have in order to have better ganks, in order to have better gap closing in general, and be able to move around the map better. Ryze is pretty slow movement speed boost in general without boots. It's just nice to have. And extra movement speed also means that when you get your runes off and you get the speed, you also get extra speed because it goes by percentage. So there's many reasons you would want this. You pick this over Hex Flash. I've tried Hex Flash actually. It's just so much more valuable to have the free boots for 300 gold. Hex Flash is very good with Spellbook because you can use Flash. You can like use a summoner and then like go back to Fountain, swap it for Flash, and then you will get Hex Flash. So it's almost like you can have like any summoner and Flash on Hex level any time of the game just because of this. So this is a very, very good combo, but it's just Ryze Jungle is just not good enough on its own so it really helps to have this. And the stopwatches just got nerfed to 10 minutes instead of 6. So it's also not the best, and its value dropped too, and you're not going to be getting Zonia. Really, that's not that important to you as getting the extra gold. This is just so valuable. Futures market, so you can get your items much quicker. It's really, really, really important. This is minions, and this mana is just it's nice having biscuits. It really is, but it's at 3 minutes, and it's just not as good as having the items earlier. Getting items earlier, and futures market gives you the 150 gold at 2 minutes. So once you back, you're going to be able to use this to your advantage to get items so you can clear much faster and really keep up with the enemy jungler, as this is a pick that is not meta for a reason. So you have to kind of make up for the fact that you are not going to be very strong early, in a sense of being able to like really just be a presence that is, you know, that has to be highly respected by everyone. So your 1v1 early on is not the best. It's fine, but after you WEQ, like, you are probably not going to get like want to spend mana dueling, and you probably will require somebody from lane to come over if they invade you, which is totally fine, and you are very good in the 1v2 since you have the lockdown and you have the damage, and it's really fine, and you have the maneuverability, but you can't 1v1 on your own most champions early in the game. So this is really nice. Cooldowns is also really nice. It gets your smite lower. It gets your smite to 20% off, not 15, which is insanely important. This is nice because of W, but it's just not worth it. It's just not. This is just so much better for your EQs and whatever, and it's just so valuable. Yeah, so this is just so much better than everything else in this bracket. Then you go domination, because if you're going to be going Ryze, you're going to be getting tons of mana. You're going to go Archangels, especially now with the Archangels changes. It's just so good. Archangels is so good for Ryze. It is the best item on him. It is completely staple. So you are going to have so much mana. You will not be worried about mana. What you will really enjoy is if you get a few good ganks out. And you start stacking Ravenous, and you only need assists to stack Ravenous, so you only really have to go to lane, CC, or even just like throw an EQ or anything really, and it's not that hard to gank with Ryze, especially if you have heal early on. You get the movement speed, so you can surprise the gap close, and your W is just so effective. And if the champion, if the lane you're ganking has the utility, especially bot lane with the support, you can definitely do quite well here. And Ryze ganking top is, you know, level 1. Level 3 is really strong, and usually pretty easy to pull off, and most people don't expect it happening and don't respect Ryze enough in the jungle to worry about him ganking, to ward or anything like that. So Ravenous Hunter is going to heal you, and so basically you're going to have this infinite machine of like mana. You have the infinite supply of mana, and then your mana you can use to just heal yourself back up. So you got this kind of chain going, and Ravenous Hunter is just going to be so good, especially when you get 5 stacks. You're going to heal so much from clears. And then Cheap Shot. So there's different ways to go. Cheap Shot is nice because early on, early levels, you don't have that much damage. And Cheap Shot is usually really good because it gives you true damage on when you W, and most of the time if you're going to do that, you are trying to all in whoever you're ganking, and if you're trading with the jungler that you find and you W them, you will be able to get this proc off. And I'm pretty sure the proc on Cheap Shot is much shorter than either of these. You can't proc with this on Ryze, except ult, which is just never gonna happen, like very rarely gonna happen. I don't think it even procs this, I'm not sure. Taste of Blood is fine, but it's not as useful because the early damage, this is really just for the early game. The whole point of this is just to really make sure, because if you get zoned out by the enemy jungler and you just get fucked over, like it's going to be extremely difficult game for you and your teammates to come back. It's very important that you control the early game, and this just gives a little extra threat, dissuades 1v1ing with you, and just gives you a little bit of extra damage in ganks and 1v1ing. This is 1,000 gold, minus 150 from your futures market, your 850 gold. This is not going to be difficult to get. And the lifesteal is nice. The mana regen is also very nice. 150 jumps to 225. Your Chillin' Smite is going to be very useful as well for ganks and disengage. Just anything to keep you alive, anything to make this work like really well. And then if you can afford, and if you like cleared Gromp and you cleared Krogs as well or something, and you like taking Scuttle and like all this stuff, maybe you'll also be able to afford parts or the whole entire tier, which is your second staple. You need both of these. This is the first 2 items that you must get. As soon as you have tier, spam Q, use it as much as you can. That's the whole point. That's really what you want to do with this. The first core is obviously going to be Archangels. So you're going to get boots eventually. You're going to have Archangels. Like, this is the perfect time where you can you just spam, you just clear as fast as you possibly can, and you spend a lot of time trying to catch out the enemy jungler and either deny them ability to gank by wasting their time, or gank yourself if somebody's really pushed in, and use your R to save your teammates. You're kind of like the support jungler. You're kind of like Ivern. I've never really played Ivern, but I've seen his playstyle and I've seen people pull him off quite well. And he seems to be like basically the intervention. He like comes in and he like stops action. He's like, nope, this is not how this team fight is going to go. No. This is how this team fight is going to go. This is what's going to happen. He like, you know, he'll shield somebody, he'll Q somebody. He turns fights around. He controls the game. He's like a second support early on. Who's really good at clearing the jungle and controlling the game. So you're kind of like this control jungler. And kind of diffuse the enemy jungler's early game. This is what makes Ryze so good, is because he can always use W on melee junglers, and most junglers are melee. He has a little harder time against champions like Elise, I would say. So this is your first item, absolutely. You can rush this, but I would definitely go second with this because this doesn't give you the mana. You're going to be stacking tier anyway. Once you have Sapphire's Embrace, it's just invaluable of an item. And you have so much mana, you don't need the passive on this. Hitting a large champion with this effect restores 25% of your missing mana. This is amazing. This is insane on Ryze. And it's really great to have it early, the Runic Echoes, but it's just the 7% movement speed, the 60 AP without the mana. It's just not as important as the stats you get from the 10% lifesteal and 225% mana regeneration. It's just, you don't need the rest as badly as you need this item. So I would finish this, and then I would start building into this. So obviously somewhere in here, eventually you will buy boots. Your third core is going to be Rod of Ages. Rod of Ages is just, has all the best stats, gives you the health, 500 health is really nice. The mana is really nice, and the mana will grow for your Archangels, making your Archangels give you extra AP as you're like playing the game. It's just so good. Rushing Archangel, Rod of Ages is just not going to be good because just your early game is so susceptible to abuse by the enemies team that Rod of Ages is, you will not survive the jungle in the early levels. You will not survive against the enemy jungler if you encounter them with a Aegis. It's just not gonna happen. This is basically your core. Boots, you can pretty much pick whatever the hell you want, really. The most popular option is actually going Swifties because Swifties are so. It really depends. It's really a toss-up. If you're really ahead, I mean, ideally, you can definitely get sorcerers. It's just not that important. It completely depends on your team, and it depends on their team. If you are up against tanks where you are just constantly able to cast spells freely, and you just don't, but the problem is you're just not breaking through them, just like throwing a rock at a fucking fortress, like, then yes, get these. The 18 pen is really, like, it makes a small difference that people don't notice sometimes, but it makes a difference enough. Swifties are really nice because you get the movement speed, you just get more maneuverability. And maneuverability is going to be key for you. You can go from camp to camp faster, you can go around the map and regank and reposition and switch lanes faster, and you spend a lot of time repositioning in fights. So having that movement speed within a fight is invaluable. The next item you absolutely want that is absolutely insane right now is Liandry's. There's different ways you can do this. You don't have to finish Rod of Ages first. You are putting it as a third item anyway. It is incredibly valuable, but if you are not playing on par with the enemy jungler, if your team is not really, if the gap is just really, really large, you can rush through in and skip over the Rod of Ages because you already have the mana sustain you need. Your Archangels is already going to have quite a bit of value on its own, and you already have the tankiness from Sapphire's Embrace once you have this leveled up. So all the way when you have the tier stacked all the way up, so you don't necessarily need the Rod of Ages. So if you're having a bad game, I would rush, and I believe you just finish with a Ryze. So you can definitely, so Liandry's and Ryze Scepter are just such a good combo. And in general, you're just gonna be so much more dimensional as a champion for your team. So this is a really good finish for control. Now, if you are, if we don't have the damage, or you are playing this ARAM style with like no tanks and everyone's a burster, you know, which happens quite a bit. You know, this is not LCS. You're not going to have a well-rounded comp. You can actually just straight up go the damage route, which you would rush in through a death cap, and Void Staff are also a very good combination. You can do a combination. The best combination is going death cap and going Liandry's because the health is nice and the death cap will give you the extra AP. The Void Staff is not really that useful if you are going Liandry's anyway. You can go Void Staff with Liandry's. I've never really done that because Normally, if I'm going to Leandri's, I am burning the tanks enough that it's not necessary to go penetration after that, as it is necessary to just get as much AP as possible. Okay, some utility items. Morale can be very nice on Ryze, of course. I believe, yeah, it gives you health, not mana. It doesn't give you any mana anymore. Used to be a staple on Ryze to have morale, obviously. One of the reasons he was still meta, and one of the reasons he didn't have a below 40% win rate, 45% win rate, I mean. Okay, so the one thing with this also is your cooldowns are going to suffer. You get 20% here. You don't get anything here. You don't get anything here. So like after 20%, you're stuck at 20 for a while. If you want those cooldowns, you better buy something else. Like you better buy this if you want. That's pretty much Ryze jungle in a nutshell. Thanks guys so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. Hope the guy was helpful, and see you guys in the next video. Peace. Foxy out.